Hello and welcome, everyone. We're so glad you could join us for the next hour or so as we learn about the Southern Ute people of Colorado. We hope you, your families, and your communities are staying safe and healthy, and we assure you that your Crow Canyon family is thinking of you in this time of social distance. My name is Adam, and I am a Cultural Explorations Coordinator for Crow Canyon. I do whatever I can to support the mission and the people of this wonderful organization, including leading travel seminars to visit significant places and people in the American Southwest and beyond. I would like to acknowledge the indigenous people and cultures of the Four Corners region that resided on these lands in the past, who continue to live here on the lands in the present and will do so in the future. The work that we do the work that we do at Crow Canyon would not be possible without recognizing and honoring the generations of people we learn from on a daily basis. Thank you for joining me in this acknowledgement. I'm going to share my screen here. For some more gratitude. Another group of people for whom I'm grateful is the good people behind the scenes that make these webinars possible, which include Dylan Schwint, Taylor Hasbrook, MJ Smith, Jen Pizzo, and Sarah Payne, among others, all of which spend a significant amount of time making these webinars look easy. Thanks also to Four Corners Lecture Series, which is brought to you in part by Canyons of the Ancient National Monument and Mesa Verde National Park. The good people of these federal agencies put a great deal of effort into protecting our public lands and sacred landscapes. I, for one, am enormously grateful for their efforts. A huge thank you also to Mr. Edward Box III for sharing some of his history and knowledge with us today. And of course, thanks to all of you for joining us. Those of you familiar with Crow Canyon Archaeological Center and the work that we do know that we have an important and unique mission, which is to empower present and future generations by making the human past accessible and relevant through archaeological research, experiential education, and American Indian knowledge. I think the people of Crow Canyon do an amazing job of serving this mission every day, and I'm very proud to be a small part of it and to help facilitate the flow of knowledge and understanding. Please join us next Thursday, June 4th for Sacred Landscapes, Sacred People with Jason Nez. And the following Thursday, June 11th, for Membris, Dimples, Slip Slop, and Clapboard, and what they are and why they matter with Dr. Steve Lexon. For those of you joining us on Zoom, you will notice a button in your upper right-hand corner where you can adjust how you view this webinar by moving our talking heads into different configurations. You will also see a button at the bottom of the screen that says Q&A. Please submit your questions using the Q&A button, and we'll do our best to get you some answers. If you're unable to join us for the whole presentation for any reason, fret not, friends. Crow Canyon will be sure to post this webinar on our YouTube channel, so that you can view it again and again at your convenience and share it with people who also might be interested. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Excuse me. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Edward Box III, a Southern Ute Tribal Member who was raised in his traditional Ute ways on the Southern Ute Indian Reservation. Edward lives in Ignacio, Colorado, and enjoys beading, crafting, relearning his language, and teaching his culture and traditional ways to a younger generation. Edward will be presenting Who Are the Southern Utes? Hello, Edward.
Hello. Hope everybody can hear me well. Let me get this started. So everybody hear me and see me? Okay, Mike, Duwayak Bidnik AM, Nunania Edward Box, Pinanuch Quachi, Bukawich. Hello everyone, I'm Edward Box. That was my native tongue introducing myself. I am Southern Ute. I'm also a part Hispanic as well as Navajo. And I grew up here on the Southern Ute Reservation, and I'd like to present and tell you a little bit about who we are. So as you see here, I started out as young. That's actually my brother and my mother. And the outfit that I'm wearing, that we're wearing, has been passed down from generations before. And then, as you see, there's some more. Back then, I had hair too and had braids. But in our traditional ways, we introduce ourselves and we tell about our family. So if I was to introduce myself to you or to some other native, I would say, my name, and then I would say, I'm the son of Mr. and Mrs. Edward Box Jr. I'm also the grandson of Edward Bent and Dorothy Burch Box. And just kind of give you a little insight, my grandfather was well known for with this Ute name Akanuch, which is red Ute. Then also I would like to introduce myself as the grandson of Mr. and Mrs. Acadio Villo. That's where my Hispanic and my Navajo side come in. And I'm also the great grandson of Samuel and Clara Birch, and the great grandson of Edwin and Ruth Cloud. So traditionally we tell who we are so that it shows us where the family that we're raised from. It also gives an insight on location on where that family resided. The Utes were known as the oldest residents of Colorado, and we're, if you want to really call us, we're the original Coloradoans. We inhabited the mountains of the vast areas of Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Eastern Nevada, Northern New Mexico, and Arizona. And I'll actually go into a little bit more detail in my presentation on our original
Edward,
territory.
This is
Yes.
Dylan. I'm sorry to interrupt, and just we're getting some comments, and also it appears on my end that the slides are a bit blurry. Is there possible to try to stop sharing and reshare your screen? Or?
Okay. So share it again?
Yeah, let's try to share and just start over. It looked clear when we did it initially. So when we did our practice share, things looked well. It just this time doesn't look very good. So
okay, let me go ahead and start from the beginning of sharing and then setting it up. Okay, here we go.
that's still blurry.
We changed something in the audio settings, and I think it became blurry after that. Could it be the resolution?
Well, yeah, let me go ahead and head back and.
Don't optimize for the video. We still need to share the audio.
Okay, here we go. Let me try. Change the setting back.
Still blurry on my end.
Well,
let me try.
Thanks, everyone. Go forward. Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, we've got rural internet connections. That might be a playing factor here too. So thanks.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to? I wonder, can everyone see if I?
Are you sharing Are you sharing the whole screen or just the PowerPoint? Maybe try that.
The whole screen.
Yeah, I don't know. We may just have to go ahead and do our best.
Okay, well, I can continue on.
Yeah, that somebody suggested we try to email it, which would be a good solution ahead of time, but I'm not sure. It might take longer to transfer now that we're live. So we may just have to go ahead and go from there. So.
Okay, so let me go ahead and just the Southern Utes, like I said, we were the oldest residents here in Colorado, and we are considered the original Coloradoans. And we, inhabited a vast, large area that surrounded Colorado. The Utes lived in bands, and bands consisted of certain families, and that a lot of each of these bands had certain families in it. So when it came to our traditional and as well as our history it was passed on through oral. And that's one thing that nowadays a lot of the Utes within our certain reservations, when we talk about our history or we talk about our traditional ways, they're similar, but they're different because it's a different interpretation, but they mean one meaning. So like in where I'm at on the Southern Ute Reservation, a lot of our traditional ways are a little bit different because of our certain location. The Utes lived off land, establishing a relationship with an ecosystem. Our language of the Utes is a Shoshonean, which is a dialect of the Uto-Aztecian language. And one thing that's really, I think, is really interesting about our dialect, is that the other surrounding tribes like the Paiute, the Shoshone, the Comanche, they all they're from that Uto-Aztecian language as well. So some of their language is very similar to Ute language as well. So every year the Utes get together. They're all invited to attend the Shoshone and Uto-Aztecian language reunion, which happens every year. All the tribes come together. They share their culture. They share the language, and it's just like a reunion of the Shoshonean dialect. Our Southern Ute lives are can be told as a circle of life. Our world, our lives revolve around a circle, which our circle consists of the east, south, west, and north, and each direction has a meaning behind it. Like for east, it symbolized to us spring and infants. That's where the birth comes. That's where the sun comes up and starts our day. That's when we're greeted by the Creator. That's when we go out and do a prayer to greet the sun. I can remember my grandmother telling us that you can't sleep late. You have to get up before that sun comes up, because that's the beginning of the day. You want to be thankful for that, allowing the Creator allowing you to have a good night. And then the direction south means to us is summer, and that's youth. That's where the young are starting to develop, because summer is kind of like that. And then a direction west symbolizes fall, and that's the adult life stage, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm in the fall. I'm in the west in my life. As I get a little bit older, then that's when the direction for us is winter, when it is north, and that is symbolizes winter, but it also symbolizes elders. That's where, you are completing the circle of life. You come to the elder stage. And how I was taught, when you're an elder, when you get to that stage, you will start seeing all your life, you continuously to be humble, respectful, and you're learning. And when you get to that age of being an elder, you still continue being respectful and respectful and humble. All that will come back to you, and that's when you're able to talk, tell your stories of, this is how we do it. This is how we go out and we harvest wild onions, or this is the significant behind our bear dance. This is what you have to do as a woman to prepare. So that when you start getting that humbleness, respectful from the young ones, that kind of opens up a door, and all that you have learned, that's all up in your head and in your heart, starts to come out. And that's when they'll start to listen and say, oh, that's what the tribal elder is saying. So our life consists about the circle of life. Part of our life, we are very avid beaders. We had, our early Southern Ute beadwork was, or I should say Ute in general beadwork, was geometric in design. And if you were to look at old photos of the Utes, a lot of their beadwork were geometric. And then when we had the Spanish contact, we started to get glass beads, and then that's when you will see the floral designs start coming out in patterns and on regalia or in outfits. You would see that. So if you wanted to predate something that you saw that was in an old photo and it had floral on it, you would say, oh, that was after the Spaniard contact. And then one thing that the Utes kind of adapt, and it's kind of a symbol now, that if you see a beaded rose on medallions or in your outfit, on shawls, that symbol is Ute, a Ute symbol. There, you either would say, oh, that person must be Ute, or that shawl she's wearing, or that necklace that he's wearing has a rose on it. It must have came from a Ute, because we're known to we sell a lot of beadwork, but we also gift beadwork, because that's something that we pride on, and that's one way of giving blessings, when we give something away. And nowadays our beadwork has become very, it's like a drawing. It's like the Ute, it takes what they're thinking and expresses it in their beadwork. And I'll show you one of the latest works that I did. And this was a painting that my uncle did, and he's passed on into the spirit world. Well, I took that painting, because that painting is no longer with us, but we still had a photo of it. So I beaded it so I can have him with me still, because I'm very proud of his artwork. So there were at least, I believe, 12 to 13. It's somewhere around there, roughly about 14 Ute bands that lived in the original territory of around Colorado. And as some of those bands have kind of married into the Paiute tribe. So the bands in the eastern Nevada, they kind of migrated and become the Paiutes, are married in with the Paiutes. A lot of bands just kind of disappeared into smaller ones. And as the government came in and started pushing, natives onto reservations, the Utes were compressed to 3 reservations, and that was the Southern Ute Reservation, the Ute Mountain Ute Reservation, and the Ute Indian Tribe Reservation. And the Ute Indian tribe is in Fort Duchesne. They are originally Coloradoans as well, but and I believe this was after the Meeker massacre, they were pushed out of Colorado into Utah, and that's where they ended up. But they're originally Coloradoans, and 2 years ago was the first time the state of Colorado at least acknowledged them. And now in the state of Colorado at the Capitol, all 3 Ute flags fly there because we are the original Coloradoans. And so the Southern Utes consist of 2 bands. Out of all those bands, Southern Utes consist of the Muach band and the Kaputa band. And the Muach band was more of the Front Range, Colorado. It was the eastern slopes of Rockies from Denver to South Trinidad, and it also reached down to Las Vegas, New Mexico. That's where all the Muach reside, and that's really where Buckskin Charlie reside as well. Then the Kaputa band, which they lived on the eastern slopes of the Rockies, and they lived in the area of South Valley, the San Luis Valley area, near the headwaters of the Rio Grande, and that so they were kind of in that area. One thing I do want to say is that where the Southern Utes live right now, our reservation, is originally Weemanuch, which is Ute Mountain. This was the original territory of the Weemanuch. So as we were compressed, they were moved more west, and the government pushed us to that area too. But we reside in the area or the territory of where the Weemanuch reside. And in 1837 is when my reservation, the Southern Ute Indian Reservation, was established. As of today, our reservation, we have it's an estimate of 681,000 acres that comprise our Southern Ute Reservation. And one thing about our reservation, it's a checkerboard. And I believe there's 2 in the United States, but what I mean by checkerboard reservation is that there's a lot of acreage that do not belong to the Southern Ute. They are what we consider fee land. They're privately owned. And that used to be allotted land back then. And the government was very sneaky. I could recall my grandfather telling me that, they knew that they would get that land back because it was very rich in agriculture, So, he said one of the things was they imposed taxes on the Southern Utes, and they were able to repo that land and then sell it off to non-natives. One thing that we do, after our reservation was established, and in the late 50s, our tribal seal was established, and it was designed by 2 tribal members. And when I refer to them, they're tribal elders to me, and they were Ben Watts, Stanley Reed Frost, and Russell Box Sr., and they're tribal seniors to me, and some have passed on right now. But if I don't know, I wish I could show my tribal seal. But one thing that really, really means a lot to me when it comes to our tribal seal is the Indian head that sits right in the center of our seal. And as you can see it, this is the Indian chief that sits on the center of our seal, and it's beaded. I beaded it because that seal makes me feel that's who I am, and that's where I come from. So I wanted a part of me, so I took the part of my tribal seal and beaded it on my top hat. So, and that's something nowadays that you see, in regalia is top hats. So moving on, we do have some tribal events that do happen on the reservation. The first one is the Southern Ute Bear Dance, and each Ute tribe does host their bear dance. This is something, as my grandfather taught me, that we we welcome all. This particular bear dance is a social dance. It's welcoming to us, because that's the spiritual aspect of it, is welcoming the spring and the rejoicing of celebrating the connection with Mother Earth. As you see, spring, the flowers are coming up, and this particular dance was given to us by the bear. And we do have a bear dance, story that does come along on how the bear dance was given to us. And the way it was, excuse me, the way it was told to me was, my grandfather told us that the two Ute warriors went out hunting, and they happened to come upon a bear, and they saw this bear, and scratching and going back and forth and clawing and making grunt noises, and they were kind of curious, so they went up to the bear. And back then, traditionally, I was taught that animals talked to us. They were our guides. They told us, certain things and helped us live. Well, this bear was a female bear, and she told those two Ute brothers what she was doing, because they wanted to know. And she said, well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. She goes, but the only way I'll tell you is if one of the brothers stays with me, and I'll teach him. You come back the next year, and I'll share all what I'm doing right now, what the the reason why I'm doing all these things. So they agreed upon it. When the brother went back, the following year he came back, and when he came to the same location, he saw two bears over there, and he's like, okay, well, where's my brother? So he approached that bear, and he asked, where's my brother? I'm back here to learn what you are going to teach me. And the bear said, don't you recognize him? He's right here. He turned into a bear. So that's where the bear to us the dance to us is a woman's choice. She chose that bear to dance, and she explained to him that, this is a celebration of spring, and you take that back to your people, these songs, this dance, and teach them. And every year you'll do that during springtime. And how we know
Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. I think Taylor's going to try to get a hold of Ed, and hopefully he can reconnect. Oh, and Adam is talking, but he's muted. So.
Thanks. I was just saying how impressed I am by Edward and his ability to shoot from the hip without his slideshow. He's really great.
Oh, he should reconnect soon.
Thanks for your patience, everybody. We're battling rural internet connections here, so do the best we can. Thanks. For those of you not watching the chat, it sounds like Taylor's updating and letting us know that Edward's reconnecting right now. Thanks to those of us that are putting questions in the Q&A box. That's awesome. What I'm going to do is we're going to let Edward tell his stories, and then after a little bit of time, he'll open it up to questions, and I'll ask those questions on your behalf. Thank you once again for those folks that are putting questions in the Q&A. All right.
Okay.
There he's back.
My internet went out. Now I'm back on my phone.
Oh, well, that's lovely.
So let me get back to where I was at. Modern technology. Gotta love it. So, okay, the bear dance is a woman's choice, and it's always when I was growing up, I had to how to explain it to people. I always used to say it's the like a Sadie Hawkins dance. That's where it's their choice. They can dance whoever what they want, and that the Utes believe that the bear dance, if you're married, it strengthens your marriage because you let your wife go out dance with other men, and that's where relationships come in too, because my parents met out there. They believe it's like a courting dance. That's how my parents became a couple, is they met at the bear dance. And my grandfather used to, and I sometimes I look back and say, oh, maybe he was just trying to telling us and getting after us to say you better dance. But he used to tell us that way back then, you never turn down when the shawl, because the women will pick their partner with flicking their fringes of the shawl, and you had to dance. But if you turned around, if you said no, you didn't want to, give her a gift. And he said over years it was monetary. Back then it was horses. They gave horses. He said, this is where I thought maybe he was just trying to get us to dance more. He said they even gave cars away. I'm pretty sure they probably did something like that. And so, the bear dance is always look for a bear dance, and we welcome everyone to attend our bear dance. There are some things that you do have to abide by. There are some rules that you can't. It's not a photo opportunity to take photos of the dance. And if you step into the corral, even just to observe, and the male is actually opening up his dance card and saying, I'm here to dance. When you get picked, you have to. So if you just want to observe, stay outside the corral. And so what the bear dance is, one of the oldest known natives dance. It has gone back years, and it's hard to date the bear dance, and I encourage all to go to the bear dance. During the bear dance time, we have what we call the Ute Nation Day, and that's put on by the tribe through the Southern Ute Cultural Department. And the Ute Nation Day was originally called was called the Uray Day, and it's a theme. It's a theme event, and each year the theme is chosen, and the theme honors the aspect of youth life, culture, government, or services, and celebration for those individuals who contributed their lives, contributed to the Ute tribes. So last year we honored the bear dance chiefs. This year, and it's going to happen next year. There will be honoring the Ute chiefs and headsmen of all the Ute nations. So, and that's one thing that some of the past Ute Nation days, we honored the tribal elders, tribal veterans. We honored our tribal police forces, and that consists of all three tribes, our Ute Tribal Council women, and also the Ute and Comanche Peace Treaty. We also honored our elders who we call the Golden Ages, and that's the 70 and plus. So that's one event that happens during the bear dance time. Later on in the season, later on in fall time, we have our tribal fair, and our first tribal fair, which has been noted, was in 1920. And this year, hopefully things will work where we could host our tribal fair, our 100th year. If it doesn't, the creator will let us know. The creator, we always put our faith into the creator, and the creator will protect us, as long as we honor and pray to him. So our tribal fair, we have a powwow, which is open to all. We have a parade, which happens on every Friday or Saturday morning, and it's gotten larger. So I encourage all. We have powwow participants who actually participate in our tribal fair as well. We tribal members get to enter their beadwork, their tribal and into the tribal exhibits. There are games that are offered for all Native Americans, like the grease pole, fried bread contest, jalapeno eating contest, and I've always wanted to try that, but I don't know. So we also have a hand game tournament during that time. There's another event. I will just kind of talk about it real briefly, because to me it's very spiritual. It's very sacred to me, and that is our our Sundance Ceremony, and that is all Natives do that, and we do that as well. And it's, to me, it's my tradition, and it's a way for us to ask for prayers and protection, and that's all that I will share, because that's very sacred to me. The Southern Ute, our Southern Ute tribal government is our last hereditary chief for the Southern Utes was Antonio Buck Sr. He was also the first elected chairman of the Southern Ute tribe. Every 3 years, our Southern Ute chairman is elected. They serve a 3-year term. So next year, we will have a new chairman. So our tribal members will campaign and become part of, hope that the tribal membership will vote them in. So our Southern Ute Tribal Council, they govern over the government portion of the tribe. We also have 2 major businesses that comprise of what we have right now is what we call the growth fund. They're the ones that take care of the investments. Then we have the Sky Ute Casino Resort, and we all know what the Sky Ute Casino Resort is. It's gaming. So right now it's closed down. One thing that I do want to touch on is that we really pride on our youth as well. They're our future. I'm at an age right now that I'm teaching, and I talk to like my nieces and nephews, and I tell them all the things that I was taught by my grandfather and what his grandfather taught him. We pride on our youth. So today, in this day and age, what we have is what we call the Sunshine Cloud Smith Youth Advisory Council. And this particular council it provides our Southern Ute students with a leadership program. It creates awareness for our youth and on the community issues that are happening now. And it's an opportunity for youth from ages from 11 to 17 to be part of this leadership program. And how we look at the council is that they're a voice for the Southern Ute youth, and they learn and assist on making. Excuse me, never talked this long. It's been a while. This particular youth council, they learn and assist in making proposals to our tribal councils, and they work closely with our tribal council. And one thing that, when it comes to our tribal council, when they are doing a project or they want to create this particular program, they will always say, well, let's invite the youth council in so we can see how they feel, because they're a different generation than us as we're older. So we want to get their voice in and their ideas. And that's one thing that I really think that is a great collaboration for our tribe, is that we groom our youth on how to become a leader of their tribe. When I was younger, youth, we had to just sit there and listen. We couldn't talk. We had to, when our grandfather was talking, our grandmother, or anybody who was elder, we had to sit there and listen. We couldn't ask questions. See, nowadays youth can ask that, but we couldn't ask questions. If we got questions, listen. And so I do want to tell you an experience I had when I first went to college. I was right off the reservation, went to college, and I can remember in my accounting class, I was sitting there, and interesting, my professor had white hair, so to me, he was an elder. So I'm sitting there, and I had a question, and I would look at him like, I have a question. Ask me if I have a question, because that's how I was taught. They had to ask me if I had any questions, or if I, wanted to say something. And it was hard for me, and it was a struggle for me to evolve to what, out of the traditional way I was raised, to evolve to what I am now, to where I don't have that problem. I can say, hey, I do have a question. And like I said, the youth nowadays, they question a lot. They always ask why we do this, and how can we say it this way. And so along with the youth council, we have other ambassadors of the tribe, and that's our Southern Ute royalty. And every year around our fair time, we crown our new royalty, and we have a royalty pageant. And our youth, and it used to be just nothing but the women and the youth girls that would be able to have this opportunity. But now we open it up to the boys. So now we have a Ute Brave. So every year they get to do a Ute talent. They are asked questions about their Ute history. They give a dance demonstration, and they're crowned every year in September. During our tribal fair. Close to closing, I do want to give you an interesting fact that is a Southern Ute history fact, and that I was happy to be part of that history fact. And it was a major thing, very major thing. In 1977, and to be exact, it was July 21st through the 24th of 1977, the Southern Utes, or let me rephrase that, the Utes and the Comanches signed a peace treaty. There was a 200-year war between us, the Comanches and the Utes. Well, that year in 1977, they signed a peace treaty, and we came together. Our councils, all Ute 3 councils, and the Comanche councils, they all signed a peace treaty in 1970, ending that 200-year war. So that's an interesting fact. And I do recall that day. I was 9 years old when that happened, and I'll never forget it. I remember them sitting up the teepee, and they signed the peace treaty inside the teepee. We did a ceremony. We had a powwow. It was a good time, and a really exciting and memorable history that I remember being part of. So I just wanted to share that with you. So in closing, for the presentation portion of it, Tawayach, which means thank you in my language. So thank you.
Thank you, Edward. Awesome. We've got some questions, quite a few about beadwork, actually. Would you be willing to explain what is unique about Ute beadwork, and do both men and women participate in beading?
Traditionally, it was the female that did the beadwork. Now that things have kind of changed. It is gotten to, it's both male and female, and the beadwork, as I've learned it, that you it's like a drawing. You put that drawing in there, and then you bring it to your heart, and you look at it, and you say, okay, this is what I want. And as you're beading, you it portrays who you are. See, like I said, this particular one, I did it myself. It's in size 15 beads. If any of you know what size 15 beads is, and how tiny they are, and I incorporated a breastplate to it, because this is this to me, this is a male right here. It was my uncle's, so I put the male portion of breastplate on it. This is geometric. This is kind of like our old beadwork. And back when I looked at a lot of our beadwork, like my grandmother's beadwork, or my grandfather, well, mainly my grandmother, and other elderly women, tribal elderly women, and their whole thing was they had a design and they put it on. They put it onto their material, and it didn't. They weren't trying to be precise and say, oh well, this isn't, this particular line doesn't match, so I need to take this bead out and put it. No, they just put it. It flowed. When they bead it, like you can see us here, there you can see a line, but it's not really that even. So our beadwork, I haven't really. I've only done a rose. I want to do some more roses, but I've gotten into more trying to do a lot of beadwork that is from kind of the past, the Ute past. Okay.
Sorry, it took me a minute to find the unmute button. What did Ute people use for beadwork before glass beads were introduced?
They would use bone, like acorn, the little seeds from the acorn. A lot of items that were from, like, mainly, and they don't use that acorns anymore, or not, the little seeds. They would do seeds. They would find things that was within nature that they could put into our beadwork. But I asked that question myself, is how they used to bead, and they would. What I was told from one elder is they would had a small bone, and they would use sinew to bead onto, mainly like buckskin, from the buffalo hide. Buckskin is that what we refer to, but it was a lot of seeds, nuts. So it was, like I said, it wasn't until the Spaniards was introduced the glass beads to the Utes.
All right, thanks. There's a question about if you know about the relationship between the Utes and the Aztecs.
That I've been told that they there were more the Wemanooch that were part of. They interacted with, or not interact, but they knew of them. And one of my uncles, who just passed on last month, he told me a Ute word, and it escapes me, and I have to ask another elder, but they had a saying for them. They called them this certain word, this Ute word, and it meant, if you ever went to the cliff dwellings and you would they would look out, you see on their ceiling or their walls, that little square that you could see inside. They would look out, and the Ute word referred to the whiteness of their eyes, because all you would see in that was their eyes. But they did interact with them back years ago.
And do you happen to know at what point in time that the Aztecs broke off and went down south? Is that
That I don't know.
Okay, that was the second
That's
part.
something I will have to learn.
All right, me too. So along those lines, there's a really interesting question here, and it's the gist of it is the ancestral Puebloan people are well known to be in this area. Do Ute people also claim this area? Were the Ute people here at the time as well, or when did the Ute people come into the southern Colorado area? Do you happen to know?
That all I've been told from my elders is that we've been part of the area. We're the original, and there were other tribes, other bands as well and that would be the Pueblos, the Navajo, and excuse me, on the eastern part of Colorado, you had the Cheyennes, the Shoshone, the Arapaho. That we roamed, but we had our original what you call our residence in these areas, as I've been told, and it's passed down to me.
Okay, and there's another question along those lines, dude. I'm understanding that the Ute people were before the Navajo. Is that correct?
They were down more in that area, the south area of Colorado, and when I was growing up, my grandfather told us that the Utes and Navajo never got along. They always fought. So we really didn't talk so much about the Navajo tribe because they were enemies to us. And I kind of laugh now and think back, well, I think my dad signed a peace treaty when he married my mother because she's part Navajo. So I must be part of that peace treaty. But I was taught that they were down in that area, and Gawi, which is what we call them, and they were the enemy. They were the Bukawich is a certain term, a certain word, and it escapes me right now, but I know that it refers to kind of like an enemy word.
Okay. Is the Southern Ute Reservation open to the public, and are there tours?
We do have, well, right now we're not we are open except for our administration, our casino, our museum. But we do have, when times come about, and hopefully it opens soon, but the Southern Ute Museum actually is a really great place to visit and see our history. That if you go there, you get to start with our creation story and learn through how they interact with or when they were encountered with the fur traps and fur trappers, the Anglos, and then you go into the life of the Ute, to the boarding school, and to what Southern Utes, how they have adapted and come to live now. So the Southern Ute Museum and Cultural Center is the best place to visit when the time is available for. But they do tours as well.
Okay, thanks. I have a question about how does healing fit into the bear dance?
Healing,
yeah.
Because when spring comes around and it's like rebirth, it's kind of like you're coming out, and it's that dance is fulfilling you in a way that it strengthens you. You take in all your prayers, and you drop them off there, kind of in it, to say you drop them off there, and you go out refreshed. You go out a new person. And one thing that our particular bear dance has is two pine trees or two cedar trees that sit at our entrance. One's a female and one's a male, and that's where we went at the end of bear dance. We offer our prayers there, and that was something that had been given to my grandfather in a vision that said, "This is how you can help your people in taking their prayers, their what they want to ask for guidance or for themselves, and leave it at those two trees, like I said, the male and female, and you leave those there, and you come out and you're kind of relieved, feeling kind of healed."
Thank you for sharing. Can you talk to us a little bit about horses and Ute culture?
Yes. Horses were introduced to us by the Spaniards, and we and our elders say we were the best horsemen, native horsemen. We were able to sneak away. We were able to go into battles. And one thing about Utes and horses, being that us Utes were short, there was less weight, so they were able. The horse and our Ute people became one, so they were able to help us, moving to as because we don't stay in one location as we're with we build our residence, and then when season changes we go to another location, and we do that. And the horse was a very help us. It was to help us move, and we became really good horsemen. The Utes did.
There is someone wondering about the relationships between the ancestral pueblos, and do you know if there were pueblo communities that the Ute had strong connections with at one time, and still perhaps still do?
That I do not. I don't believe we did, but that's something that I am still learning, and I don't believe that we actually had a relationship with the pueblos at that time. Okay. Because of the fact that we traveled all the time, so we could not. We would stay in one location, like I said, with the horses. We'd stay in one location, then we would move, so that place, that area, as we consider it, Mother Earth can heal. So we traveled.
What about current and historical interactions between the Southern Ute people and the Ute Mountain Ute people?
We have a great relationship. We now the time is a lot of us Utes we still celebrate our bear dances together. We celebrate, or we do our traditional dances. We a lot have intermarried as well, and so as I consider, this is how I consider it. We're the Ute Nation. I said, forget about the reservations. There's no boundaries for us. What only makes us strong is we're a nation. We're the Ute Nation, and that comprises of the Southern Ute, the Ute Mountain, the Ute Indian tribe. We're the Ute Nation. We're not Southern Ute. We're not Ute Mountain Ute. We're not Ute Indian tribe. We're the Ute Nation. So we've come together in learning or working with preserving the language, the Ute language, having one Ute language. We've come together. We can, like I said, we still continue our participating in each other's bear dance. So, and as I was taught, when I would go over to, say, Ute Mountain, or I go to Fort Duchesne, Utah, learning from those elders is what I was doing, like I do here, was I'm learning from my elders. So we're all together. We're still, back then we were together, and now that the times who we are right now, we're together. our Bear Dance chief works together. All the chiefs work together. They come together in certain situations. Our Sundance chiefs work together too. So,
can you tell us about some efforts to save the Ute language and some things that that people are doing to try to teach the youth the Ute language?
we do have what our Montessori Academy school here, who one of the classes and a lot of the other classes they speak Ute. We have a our tribal council just was it last year um, designated a dictionary that's written now. We do have a written Ute language. We are my understanding right now is that our tribal our tribal government is working with the Ute Indian tribe or the Ute Mountain tribe, Ute Indian tribe to get that get that preserved. But we do teach it. And that's one thing that I really like about, because I wasn't living here for a while. I came back, and these my elders actually talked to me. That's one way that of passing down my language is they talk to me in Ute, and I can't I can't sit there and go, I don't understand. I have to say, I have to think about what they're saying. But we they teach it in the school, and one thing about our Ute language is we have different dialects. We have the dialect here on our Southern Ute reservation, but we have dialects within our dialect, because you can have the Ute that lives south of the reservation has a different dialect to the Ute on our reservation that speak. They have different dialects, and then you got the dialect of our Ute mountain tribe, and then you have the dialect of our Ute Indian tribe. But efforts right now have always been is we're teaching it in school within our school, and we're making efforts to preserve it.
That's really good to hear. Thank you. I have a question coming in from Facebook Live about how long does the bear dance last each spring?
4 days.
4 days.
And it's always there. Yeah, and it happens on Memorial Weekend. So last weekend we would have been bear dancing. We would have been able to get out there in our fringes, our best Ute regalia, show our beadwork, show our ribbon shirts. So it's 4 days, and the very last day is always on Memorial Day. And one thing I do want to say is the last day is really exciting because it's called we have a competition that happens at the end of Bear Dance, and that is between the singers and the dancers. And it's called the endurance dance. It's the last dance. And when they start that endurance dance song, they'll play it. And the singers are singing in hopes that a dancer will fall, then the singers win. Or the dancers keep on dancing, and hopefully, and I've seen it gone 2-3 hours. When the first year I came back to the reservation, when I got done, all you could see was just the whiteness of my eyes because the dirt. And excuse me, women are able to switch partners. Men, I've never. We don't switch partners because we I went through like several when the last dance. I went through so many partners, but like I said, it's a competition between the dancers and the men, and that's the last dance, and that brings the 4 days to an end.
Awesome. A couple questions I'm going to blend together here. How big is the Southern Ute Reservation, and how big was the Ute Ancestral Homeland?
The Ute original domain, it's really big. I have on my PowerPoint, I have that information, but it's I don't want to quote it wrong, but I think it's like 12 miles, or it's a small corner of the reservation. It's about, or it could be longer than that. But it starts from the state line to, if you can envision, it goes right to where Oxford, which is right before Durango, Colorado, or in that area, and then it so many miles to near where the direction of the east, which is, if you could look at Pagosa Springs, Colorado. And in fact, Pagosa is a Ute word meaning the healing waters. But then it connects to on the west side, it connects to the Mountain Ute Reservation. And I sure wish I had that information, but it's a pretty small dimension.
And the ancestral homeland of the Ute people, how large did the Ute ancestors once roam this land? How big of an area would that be, do you think?
A very big. It encompassed, like I said, Nevada, the west side of Nevada, a portion that would where we reside, all of majority of Utah, up to Wyoming, Colorado, to Kansas, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, and it was a pretty big donation of our original territory. So when a lot of NACRA cases do come up in, like, say, Kansas, Texas, and that, we're notified as well, because that's where the Utes comprised of, or the original territory.
Can you think of any ways that modern Ute people can connect with their ancestral homeland and these significantly cultural places that were in this broad territory you speak of?
One thing that now that I have moved back and learned about like my grandfather's, excuse me, my grandfather family came from Pueblo area. They were part of his great grandfather was William Bent. But that one thing, that there's a lot of sacred sites throughout our original domain, and one thing that I've learned, that we have a good relationship with federal agencies that acknowledge and protect our areas. And if we wanted to go present or go to a ceremony, or we wanted to go visit, we have to follow certain procedures, but we're still able to visit those certain locations and know that they're protected.
Right, that's good to hear. So I'll wrap it up with one more question. Thank you, Edward, so much. This is great. I could go on and on. But how can people connect with Ute people now, and how can they learn more about Ute culture?
One thing that I was raised to share my culture, to share not so much my traditional ways, but to share my culture, because you want people to acknowledge who I want them to acknowledge that I am Southern Ute, I am Ute, and I'm proud to be Ute, and that me sharing this, they will know, okay, well, I learned this from that guy Edward Box, that they have a Sundance. I can't participate in that, and I don't have knowledge of it because that's sacred to them. But just learning who we are, and visiting like our museum, visiting in Denver, the History of Colorado, they have an exhibit that was put together by each Ute tribe, called Written on the Land. And in fact, I was able to help out on that exhibit as well. But in Denver, they have that exhibit on us Utes, and it's told by us. but just learning who we are and learning to want to learn that, to respect who we are.
Well said, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I really
welcome.
value your sharing your knowledge with us and with me, and I'm grateful. Thank you.
And thanks to all.
Indeed, yes. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thanks for continuing to engage in these webinars with us. And once again, Mr. Edward Box III, thank you so much, sir, for sharing your knowledge with us.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. I enjoyed it. I kind of sad that I didn't get to show my PowerPoint. So, but one of these days I will.
Right on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.